Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded. This will be part 25 in the series Science of the Symbols. And so again, I'll begin with referencing Athanasius Kircher, his famous Jesuit Hermeticist, as in Hermes, God of weights and measures. And one of the many uh, books, publications that he brought out was Oedipus Egyptiacus. So before modern Egyptology began, Kircher was working in this, and so this is the front piece. Nice couple of nice little references going on there, weights and measures. And okay, without going into it too much, before the Rosetta Stone, was there a little bit more information in regards to understanding hieroglyphs? And well, there's a bit of information out there. Columba the dove, but that's not the focus now. The sistrum, this will be referred to, this ancient instrument, and Kircher was very heavily involved in geometry, music, astronomy, and arithmetic, as we've seen in earlier episodes, not just in one, but across his publications. And you can see some of the works from there and the translations, but very, very interested in Egyptology, and we'll see there's quite a bit going on now. The Labyrinth is a famous, referred to often, and this is one of the works he did on the Labyrinth. But I would like to point out the alchemical information and astronomical information. So what we have, for instance, is the zodiac here. We have a few nice references, the square, for one. Hermenubis, as we'll see again, a fusion of Mercury, Anubis, and Thoth, but Thoth and Anubis, Anubis again, Thoth and Mercury, or Hermes, god of weights and measures. And there are a few more references, but we see alchemical references again, especially to the element Mercury, the god Mercury, as we see Hermenubis there, the orb and the scepter, but also the element Mercury. And there are a few other, well, quite a bit going on here, but this is not the focus of what I want to, but before we go on, well, there are more than a few. Now, the crocodile, please remember that. That's an important feature. Now, well, what do we have there? Venus as well. Well, this will be for another time. But just as the crocodile, Crocodilius, the labyrinth, Hermeticism, and systems of ancient knowledge. There's a lot going on here. A lot involved with Athanasius Kircher, and the history books wouldn't quite tell you this. Now, this is from his book as well, Isis, the sistrum, and also the pale. Now, this is one of these things that gets, is around there, but for fertility and irrigation. I did a separate video on this. Now, there's based on, at least on these earlier guys, what we have here is that this, or the handbag as it's called, anyway, but it's a society irrigation. But also in Oedipus Egyptiacus we have this Uribus, this symbol of alchemy once more, and these alchemical symbols are there included, and also you'll notice Egyptian gods there as well. This is also an illustration by Kircher amongst his other works, and we also have the Ouroboros again. And I just had a couple of scotches, so I'm going to be probably a little bit mixed up. But anyway, alchemical symbolism and alchemy and Hermeticism, as in the god of weights and measures, and the Quadrivium, geometry, astronomy, music, arithmetic, are all very neatly embedded, not just throughout his other drawings and this one, which I haven't featured yet. So let's look at the other. So we have the snake eating its tail, which is, well, and even Jung and some other people talking in regards to, let's call it the spiritual alchemy, but in regards to the physical alchemy, the ancient sciences. This symbol is a constant, and it's and I'll do this more in future episodes, but just on Kircher. And we see that there, and we see it here as well. And connecting this one on the left is a woodcut from Oedipus Egyptiacus. Now, alchemy and alchemical apparatus. We have an alembic there. We have actual reference, direct reference to the alchemical processes and the laboratory equipment still used in chemistry labs. Hermes, the god of weights and measures. We have the scale, the pan of the scale, and we even have alluding to the hourglass, time, measures of weight, measures of time. We also have these alchemical symbols, Venus, you can even see the crescent of the moon. Alchemy, Hermeticism, Hermes, Mercury, god of weights and measures, of commerce and of knowledge, of science. What we have here are the ancient sciences, which is the white elephant in the room in regards to this topic. Now, what else do we have? Now, as we've seen earlier, alluding to the constellations. So, for instance, the Corvus constellation, the servant bird of Apollo, also like the blackbird referred to in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Ark of Utnapishtim, the flood back then. Also, as in Noah's flood, the dove and the blackbird, Corvus, which is also referred to across Hermetic architecture still to this day, hidden in plain sight. We also have a reference to the Phoenix constellation. We saw in earlier episodes how, this constellation, now even notice the flames of the Phoenix, which is a reference to, again, the calcination is essentially one of the alchemical processes. We have Leo, the lion, again, one of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and Leo and Virgo, as in our Hermetic writings, are consecrated. Virgo has this very strong connection to Isis, but also Leo, anyway, you can find that David Overton, for instance, has pointed out how these Leo and Virgo connect in the street plan of Washington. Based on that, I found the same in Brasilia, Canberra, and Astana. These are Washington, Brasilia, Canberra, and Astana are these sacred geometry cities, essentially continental capitals. They're not just national capitals, they're continental capitals. Over a year ago I did a video on that. I'm going to do an update soon enough. But Leo once more. What else do we have in this picture? The little bear, Ursa Minor, which is what's on the tail of Ursa Minor? The pole star, the North Star, next to the constellation Draco. This woodcut from Kircher, Orient, as in Oriental, that's Eastern. Occident, as in the West. Occident, West. Alright, now they're swapped over. Now, Boreas, as in Borealis, Northern Lights, that's North. And Australia, the southern continent, Oust. Now, F is a S in these old days, so that's Ouster, but that's South. North and South are swapped over, East and West are swapped over. This is a Masonic tracing board, and you see this not just going to older Hermetic works, but these tracing boards have been carrying through. They carry these are ancient ancient Greek columns, but notice East and West, North and South. Now that's an important reference, but not for this particular video. But now we come to Australia. What's this guy doing? Well, he's an Australian, so he's sitting on a crocodile. What's this gentleman doing? He's actually ambidextrous. He's writing with two hands. If you notice, there's a lot of information on this scroll here. The sun and the moon, music as well. I've already pointed out the weights and measures, alchemy. We also have music. And, well, there's quite a bit. Now, there's even multiple alchemical references there. And if you pay attention to these, these guys passed information on. Now, meanwhile in Australia, because we're upside down, but what do we have in Australia? We have the white ibis, the sacred ibis, which is connected to faith. We also have the black swan, which is a bird which did not exist. The black swan is still a term for that which does not exist. We also have Chico rolls, Tim Tams, and we put beetroot on our hamburgers. No Australian drinks Fosters, not a single one. You'd get hung in the street and burned for it. We drink VB and 4X. But definitely not Foster's. But back to the crocodile, sitting on the crocodile, just like is going on here. Little Isis, I'm going to call her for the moment. She's standing on the crocodile, and this is an important reference. Now, this is an old, again, distillation, the alembic. This is alchemical laboratory. What do we have here on the roof? we have we have the same. We have the crocodile. We can see the same thing going on. Here's an important symbol. Now let's go back to Pompeii, which had, and the Ptolemaic Greeks and Romans, and they were very much into Isis, Osiris, and these other gods. Now, here we see two variations. Now, I'm not sure if this one's from Pompeii or if they're both, but it doesn't really matter because it's a constant throughout the ancient world, and the Jesuit Athanasius Kircher and these other Hermeticists were drawing on ancient history and these ancient traditions connected to Hermeticism and to alchemy. We have exactly the same picture. Well, it's a different picture, but it's exactly the same information going on. Isis is standing on the crocodile, or seated on the crocodile. Now, back to Kircher, the sistrum, this ancient Egyptian connected to Hathor, and you find it in all these old temples and illustrations in Egypt. But again, the sistrum. Kircher's, this is just a crop of part of one of, but again, the caduceus and these alchemical symbols. And what we have is the same thing going on there. The wand, the measuring rod, as it literally translates to. That's what it is. Isis, now this is a gem, it's 2nd century BC. Isis standing on the crocodile. And Hermenubis, I'll put the link because I just recently did a video on Hermenubis as well. A fusion of Hermes, Anubis and Thoth, but Hermes, god of weights and measures and knowledge. Thoth, god of weights and measures and knowledge, carrying the rods with the two snakes. This is another example, just if that's not clear enough, of this Isis, but Isis on the crocodile. And again, same symbols, the snake in the hand, and a bit of a stylized caduceus because it's on an amulet. Hermenubis, I'll put this in the description. We can see these carrying on throughout time. Weights and measures, navigation, Hermeticism, ancient sciences. Now, Horus standing on the crocodiles. Now, the kestrel, let's call it, but the scorpion, a bull, and a lion. Birds of prey, a lion, a bull, scorpion. Where have we seen that before? Also Bes on here, this ancient Egyptian god of war and the household. He's the same one again. See, the bull, the lion, scorpion, and Bes. Now this is some of the amulets from the Nicholson Museum here in Sydney. He's got the largest collection in the southern hemisphere. Well, the eye, the jed, but we have again the statue of Bes, this dwarven god. Anubis, god of weights and measures, Thoth, Hermes, Mercury. Hermes, Mercury, god of knowledge, weights and measures, commerce, god of science. And what do people engaged in commerce do? They navigate, and they need weights and measures. Navigation. Isis consoling Canopus, and there's strong connections to Troy here. Now, for instance, this constellation Argo Navis, Pixis, anyway, one of the stars in Argo Navis, Canopus, is the second brightest star in the night sky, and Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. These are essential to navigation. Sirius, part of the constellation Canis Major, is also the star of Isis, going back to ancient Egypt. It's also from the Queen's Chamber, or the lower chamber as they call it, the shaft points at Isis in 2500 BC. We have signs, this is, just as a reminder, we saw earlier, Ursa, the little bear, the North Star. We have all the bloody stars of navigation, the symbols and the evidence of it, the weights and the measures, and it's just passed on. This is what's going on. This is the ancient science. This is Hermeticism. That's what it is. It's there, and it's been repeated by all the actual ancient Hermeticists from the prior to the Enlightenment and then the Renaissance, and going back to the ancient world. This is the basis of Hermeticism. It just is. And I don't know, I'm up over 6. It's all here. It's all clear. It's all to be measured. It's all to be tested. It's all repeated consistently over and over again. Have a good one.